Good afternoon. Welcome to Lunch Break. I'm Kelly Grant in for Wendy Bounds. We're starting off with some good news for parents facing mounting tuition bills. College financial aid hit an all-time high last year. We have Ruth Simon of the Wall Street Journal is here to tell us what's behind college's sudden generosity. So Ruth, we hear that the tuition discount rate hit an all-time high of 45%. So talk about what that is and why this is so noteworthy.
Okay, well that number is for incoming freshmen, and what the tuition discount rate is the amount of tuition that schools aren't receiving because they're giving out grants and scholarships. And it's important because there are a couple things going on. One is, since the financial crisis, a lot of families have been strained financially. Their incomes have been stagnant. And there's also been a concern and questions about high college costs, even among families that might be able to afford it. They're worried about rising student debt, a shaky job market. And so everyone's become more price sensitive, and colleges are recognizing this.
But is this actually outpaced some of the tuition increases that we've seen in recent years?
Well, what we're seeing is the tuition increases themselves are starting to slow. Last year's tuition increases for private nonprofit colleges, according to Moody's, were the slowest that they'd seen in at least a dozen years. So what's happening is the colleges are increasing their tuition, but by not as much as they have in the past, and they're having to give more of it back to families. Now, it's not true for every college, and practices will vary, and you have some schools that are very, very selective, and they may decide to be generous with their aid, but they can fill their seats. Certain other colleges need to be more generous to get people in the door.
And then, is there any breakdown on this aid? Do we know, is it mostly financial need-based aid, or is this merit aid as well?
There's a combination of need and merit aid. It depends. I mean, we have the situation where we have more families that have financial need, and so schools, they want these kids to be able to go to college, and then they also have merit aid, and there are lots of families that feel better if their kids got a merit scholarship. And if you're comparing schools, one might have a more generous package. It's a mix of both.
And then I love in this story that you talk about this as a buyer's market almost for colleges. Does this mean that parents have more negotiating leverage if they've got an offer and maybe it wasn't as good as they hoped?
It depends on the school. I think most schools will tell you if your offer wasn't as generous as you needed it to be, and that was because your application didn't reflect some of your financial factors, maybe you were taking care of an older relative, or if your financial situation has changed, they'll certainly go back and review the situation. We do know families, and we had one in the story, where they went back and they asked for a little bit of a richer deal. In this case, they were able to present the school with some information about the qualities of the student, and as well as a competing offer from another school that was more attractive and was a competitor. Often, I think for parents, if they're looking for merit aid, they're going to be most likely to get it if their child is sort of at the upper end of the profile of what the school wants, meaning, the grades are in the top quartile, the test scores and the like. Schools like to say they don't negotiate, but, that's not necessarily the case all the time.
So a buyer's market, but still a competitive market. So thank you very much for joining us. We have more on that in today's paper, and we'll keep an eye out, of course, for parents who are in the process of selecting their child's college.